Today on CityCast Chicago, the new mayor is setting some big goals. Outdoor movie season is here, and it turns out some of y'all actually like Malört. I'm here with lead producer Samal Ali Sayed to break it all down. It's Tuesday, July 11th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Good morning, Simone. Welcome back to the mic.
Hey, Jacoby, how are you?
I'm doing well. We got a lot to talk about, including a 223-page report that got dropped by Mayor Brandon Johnson's transition team last week. It's called Building Bridges and Growing the Soul of Chicago, a blueprint for creating a more just and vibrant city for all. Simone, were you able to get into this, pretty large report?
Yeah, a little bit, right? It's a big document. I will admit, I did not read all 223 pages. But
it's got some helpful pictures and some graphics, some little flow charts.
It does. I was really surprised by that, actually, about there are these great illustrations that kind of show the different goals. But I mean, I think the big thing is right. So we have talked recently about Brandon Johnson and his sort of first couple months in office. And we talked a couple weeks ago about issues around ShotSpotter, the gun detection technology, as well as sort of around school governance and local school councils and police in schools, and maybe some indications of moves where Johnson is maybe pulling back on some campaign promises, starting to see the differences between candidate Johnson and Mayor Johnson. But the other sort of interesting thing about this is, his predecessors, former Mayor Lori Lightfoot and former Mayor Rahm Emanuel, both put out their transition reports before they even took office, before inauguration. And we're getting Johnson's 2 months into his term, which
I appreciated how he flipped that a little bit, though, right?
He really did, yeah.
Right? He gave the Chicagoans deserve time. We don't need to be rushed. And I feel like compared to his predecessors, he is more likely to be held accountable to the progressive vision board that he outlines.
Well, certainly people tried to hold Lori Lightfoot accountable, I would say. I think that was probably one of the hallmarks of her tenure was just the sort of what she promised and how little she delivered on some of those campaign promises. But within the report here that we've got from Brandon Johnson, there are some really sort of interesting things. A lot of stuff that really does align with what he talked about on the campaign trail. So he did bring up ShotSpotter, ending that ShotSpotter contract. He did. This report also sort of endorses the recommendation to get rid of the gang database, this sort of really problematic database that connects people to gangs. Both of these tools used by the Chicago Police Department to fight crime, but both tools have been sort of found to be both racist and not that effective, frankly, in doing so. A lot of stuff too on the schools front. But I think the biggest question on all of this in all 223 pages is how we're going to pay for all of these things.
And I know a lot of people's initial thought, because I have this same feeling as well when some of these issues come up, is like when people say, where are we going to get the money from? And I'm like, man, it feels like Chicago always has money for the things it wants, right? It found money for Chicago. Why can't it find money for other things? When you really sort of move through this entire list, there's some big goals on here. Free childcare for all Chicagoans, right? They want to potentially create a public bank. But if you look in that sort of bridges left to build, it says, we discussed specifics of mayor's tax policy and tax incentives for corporations, but did not reach consensus. And that's kind of what we saw coming out of the campaign trail, is that people were wondering, you have some, proposals like the Bring Chicago Home, right, which would be a sort of a real estate tax. You also had potential taxations on hotels and gas, but those sounded like suggestions on the campaign trail, but they don't really find themselves inside of this report because, I mean, it's becoming clear that securing those may be harder.
It's worth noting that the Bring Chicago Home tax, as you mentioned, that real estate transfer tax, sort of a high-end luxury real estate sales, that is sort of the one big tax revenue proposal that is sort of, yes, we want to pass this. It's something that the committee has said, has endorsed, and is something that Johnson has said, yes, we're going to do this. Sort of some of the other proposals that are missing, bringing back what's called a head tax. So that's taxing companies, businesses based on how many people they employ, how big their payroll is in Chicago. Also, any type of, Johnson had talked about an income tax, a city income tax. And so that is going to be a tough sell. The other really big financial thing in here too is in schools, the fact that COVID money is running out.
Exactly.
This is a huge thing that is about to happen for CPS specifically, other stuff too, but in CPS specifically, that is something that is coming down the pike very, very fast that the Johnson administration will have to figure out. And in this report, it's sort of nothing too specific on how to deal with that. It's a lot of finding new revenue streams.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be admired throughout here. Everything from, like you said, these sort of big goals to even smaller goals that obviously have big price tags, but providing public transit, laptops, Wi-Fi to students, doing more resources for newly arriving migrant students, for students who are dealing with houselessness. But the question that we keep posing, people are going to keep posing is, how do we grow Chicago's tax base? Right? How do we bring more people here? How do we keep people in Chicago? And also, how do we grow our revenues with COVID dollars drying up? So, we will drop a link so you can read the entire 200-page report yourself, as well as links to some of our favorite journalists who've helped you break down some of this. What's up, Chicago? Jacoby here. On this podcast, as you know, we work hard to bring you the most important and entertaining conversations happening around our city. But that's not all we do. We also have a daily newsletter that brings you so much more. Our free daily newsletter, Hey Chicago, is written and curated by Sydney Madden. You may have heard her behind the mic a couple of times. My mom can't stop talking about her. The Hey Chicago newsletter is your daily toolkit for being a more informed and engaged citizen of Chicago. It's packed with recommendations, tips, and secrets for seizing everything that Chicago has to offer. You can subscribe to Hey Chicago at chicago.citycast.fm/newsletter. Moving on to a topic that, was really on our minds and on our palates last week, the taste of Malört. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it one of the Horcruxes from Harry Potter? I'm not sure if that.
That was right. No, that was right. You were there.
All right, cool.
That's accurate. That was there. Yeah.
I was reaching, but I'm glad it worked. Last week I tried Malört for the very first time, and it was not great. But we did ask some of our listeners, some of our Hey Chicago readers, to tell us how they felt about Malört.
Hey, this is Chris up in North Center. Recently just heard the episode on Malört, and what's funny is Malört's actually the first alcoholic drink I have ever consumed. Newly minted 21-year-old in Chicago. I'll agree with Jacoby. Primary taste is rubbing alcohol, starting to taste the wormwood after that. The thing is, I'm such an inexperienced drinker that everything just tastes like Malört right now. Literally just had a hazy IPA, and I was still stuck with Malört face. Guess that's what it takes to get used to alcohol in the city.
Can you imagine if that was the first drink your first legal drink was Malört?
Yeah, I'd be pissed off. I do feel like my first legal drink, though, beyond just like a beer, was some concoction of mostly Everclear out of a plastic tub filled with ice and Tropicana. It was
I had a delightful drink on my 21st birthday. It was like a birthday shot with hazelnut and Baileys or something. It was really nice and sweet. It tasted like cake. I could not imagine if Malört were my first shot. But Chris, actually, of all of the listeners and readers who reached out to us, we did a little poll in our newsletter, Hate Chicago. Chris was sort of with us. Like you and me, I think we're pretty okay on Malört. We don't need to test that again.
I don't need to do it again. I went to a bar this weekend and it seemed pretty themed. It was like this, I don't know, we were doing this random bar, like impromptu bar crawl, and we stopped in like this Nashville hot chicken place on Milwaukee, and it were like 50 bottles of Jepson's in there. And then it was just like Jepson's memorabilia, old tin cans, old posters. It's almost like I had never seen it, and now I can't stop seeing it.
Now it's everywhere. So here's the thing. Hey, Chicago readers, came to us and they said, a lot of them said, yeah, I like it. Or yeah, it's part of my regular drinking routine. Like my local dive bar, they serve so much of it. Or like, I've really grown to like the taste. I'm so sorry that I sound sarcastic to you readers.
Yeah, we need that new Hey Chicago audience survey. Where y'all at? Where y'all coming from?
I genuinely am impressed by the love that Malört was getting. And one response that I want to call out from Caroline M., who described, Caroline says that they had lived in Chicago. They'd been in Chicago for 1 week. And they went on this first date with the person who is now their fiance. So shout out to Caroline. Congratulations. They had dinner. It was good. They stopped in a dive bar afterwards, and he orders 2 shots of Malört. Which Caroline had never had, was like, oh, it's a tradition, it's blah, blah, blah. Caroline goes on to say, he definitely had a good laugh at my face after I took the shot, but now Malört is our drink. And they even took pictures of us doing shots of Malört during our engagement photo shoot. So it's part of their love story, cute. Jacoby. It's cute, right?
Yeah, it feels like an endurance competition at this point. It's almost like it's beyond rite of passage. It's for some people, it's just like something about getting through it. Like being that person who doesn't make the face is sort of now a badge of honor. And so there's almost something to it of some sort of realized strength in liking Malört that I think people are leaning into. And you know what? I guess I respect that. I respect that. Speaking of things to do with your friends this summer, we are coming up 2 weeks away from the box office showdown of the summer. That is, in one corner, wearing the pink trucks, Barbie. In the other corner, wearing the existential dread, Oppenheimer.
I would argue that existential dread features in both films, by the way, but that's a conversation for another day.
Probably a little bit of both. Well, these 2 summer blockbusters are coming up. Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan movie, Greta Gerwig's Barbie on the other hand. And Chicago is going through a little bit of Barbie fever. You've seen the Malibu Barbie pop-ups. You've seen the costumes parties, the birthdays. And then on the other hand, you got Oppenheimer, which there's a pretty substantial connection to Chicago. I mean, the Manhattan Project, Power One, the first ever nuclear reactor, which produces the plutonium that goes into these weapons, was here in Chicago. Simone, are you feeling either movie?
Okay, I'm thoroughly excited for the Barbie movie. I'm here for it. I just went to a Barbie themed party this weekend. I got on board because I saw it. I read the interview with Greta Gerwig where she was like, "This might be the movie that ruins my career," and I was like, "Okay, well now I have to see this. Like this is. I'm here for it." And we just got a press release this week claiming that Illinois is the state that tops searches for Barbie fashion. This comes out of this comes out of a Boohoo, which is like this clothing. It's an online clothing shop, and apparently, out here in Illinois, we are searching for Barbie outfits. We are on Pinterest. We are looking for accessories. We're looking for purses. We're looking for hats. And I'm here for it. Oppenheimer, I'll watch it eventually. I will watch it eventually for sure.
You'll get to it at some point. I really appreciate the sort of marketing behind both movies. They've even seemed to like partner up to get people to go in and do a double feature, which I can't imagine what experiencing both of those looks like. I wonder how is Christopher Nolan getting away with some of the things he still is allowed to get away with. All I'm hearing is about them trying to recreate an explosion that in the movie with that, 6 miles of IMAX film makes you feel like you're experiencing an explosion. Why would I want that, Chris?
No, I'm not here for that.
But I mean, I'm honestly, summer movies being out at the movie theater was one of the things I definitely missed during the pandemic. And so I'm just excited that people are looking forward to going to see one of these seemingly polar opposite movies. But even if you're not interested in seeing Barbie or seeing Oppenheimer when they drop next Thursday in theaters, there are plenty of opportunities for you to see movies here in Chicago. But not only go to the movies, but you can go outside and see the movies as well. Movies at Millennium Park are back today. You can go and check out. But also tomorrow, movies on the Midway, on Midway Placence here on the South Side in Hyde Park is also back. And so we'll drop links to the full schedule. Simone, are you an outdoor movie person? Drive-ins, movies in the park, is rooftops, is that your thing?
I love an outdoor movie, like movie in the park in particular, because they're free. So number one, love that. And you can walk to them, Jacoby. Those are my top two factors for anything that I'm doing out in the world. It's free and I can walk to it. There are some really, really good ones in the park that are coming up. I am going to be sad to be missing Mean Girls at Lincoln Park near the Chicago History Museum. That's got an Evanston connection, and is a film that is near and dear to my heart. But I will be excited to go see also at Lincoln Park by the Chicago History Museum. They're going to be showing Chicago with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Renee Zellweger, which is another. That's one of my karaoke songs from Chicago, actually. So I really like that musical quite a lot.
Which one?
If I'm really feeling myself, I will do All That Jazz. Which is the opening number.
Nice. I do like an outdoor movie. I've gone to like some of Chicago's film festivals at the Pilsen Drive-In. Luckily, our newsletter editor, Sydney Madden, is on it, and she has got some of the best rooftops, best outdoor film series, best drive-ins in the city. So we will drop a link in the show notes. That's our show for today. A little bit movies, a little bit of Malört, and of course, Mayor Brandon Johnson's transition plan. We've got links for all of that for you in the show notes. Simone, as always, I appreciate you making time.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Before I let you go, a little bit of news, y'all. Over the weekend, asylum seekers living at a North Lawndale police station were moved following allegations that Chicago police officers working there had improper sexual relations with migrants, including an officer who allegedly impregnated a teen. The Daily Northwestern reports that the university has fired head football coach Pat Fitzgerald. The move comes after an investigation into the football program showed widespread hazing along with allegations of sexual abuse and racism in the program. And some good news. The Windy City Smokeout starts cooking on Thursday outside the United Center with some of the best in-country music and barbecue. For a link to tickets, check the show notes. Tomorrow, we'll be back talking water safety as the summer heats up. Definitely stick around for tips on how to stay safe at the beach. I'll talk to you then. Peace.